The Week with Ben Ellis.
This is Switch.
It's The Week with me, Ben Ellis, here on Switch Radio. It's time to bring our co-host in. Second appearance on the show, the star of the Garage Bangers, and you'll find her on daytime as well. It's Sophie Priest. Sophie, how are you doing?
I'm doing very well, thank you, and thank you for having me again for the second time.
The second time, yes. So just have to do a bit of jigging around so we can see you on the screen and not me, for those who are watching this on video. Nobody wants to see me, so there we go. Well, they've got no choice. Right, so it was announced on Saturday evening that come Thursday, we will be in, they say it's a lockdown for all of England, with the exception to the lockdown that we had in March and April, is that schools will still be open. I don't know. This has just been going on for so long now, and I don't want to presume with your own case, Sophie, because I know you're a bit of a night owl and a party animal and what have you. I've seen the bit. Look, yeah. Halloween's just gone, right? I saw it on Facebook, right? Sophie
Halloween is usually my time of year.
Sophie has a gallery of previous Halloween costumes, and they're extremely good. They're very inventive. Something I could never have wished to have competed with, but if you was going to do it, you couldn't do it beyond 10 o'clock. But now that's even gone now, hasn't it? So at least until December the 2nd, where it will be reviewed again. Are you as frustrated as I am? Not that this is happening. It's just the fact that we seem to be being told one thing, and then another thing happens, and then the government will say, we definitely don't want to do this. We definitely don't want to do this, but they end up doing it, and it's just, for goodness sake.
So I was talking to my mum about it earlier, and I said, from my point of view, if they would have implemented more serious boundaries back in January when we first knew about it, I think people would have took it more seriously. But for me, it's been nearly a year that we knew about this virus, and it's like one day we can do something else, another day we can't. And, you know, they put us in a lockdown and then allowed us to go out in August and eat out for 50% off. You know, they just allowed things to go back to normal, so to speak, and then put us into another lockdown. And for me, it's frustrating because we're being pulled back and forth constantly. Whereas in comparison to other countries, it's kind of like, what are we doing? Other countries, they're getting put into a proper lockdown for 3 months and then, you know, cases are decreasing.
Well, the new rules are that from Thursday, we will only be able to leave our homes for specific. I can't say specific. The one word I can definitely not say is specific, which is ironic, I think. Only leave your home for specific reasons. So education, work if you can't work from home, exercise, medical reasons, to escape injury or harm, shop for food and essentials, and provide care for vulnerable people or as a volunteer. No mixing of households inside homes except for childcare and other support. No mixing for any other reason than that. All pubs, bars, restaurants to close. Takeaways and deliveries are allowed. Non-essential retail to close, but supermarkets can still sell non-essential goods. Click and collect can continue. Leisure centres and entertainment venues are to close, including gyms. International travel out of the UK is banned except for work. Workplaces should stay open while for people who can't work from home, support bubbles remain. Outdoor exercise. People can sit on park benches and have picnics as long as it's within their household. Services in place for worship are banned, but private prayer is permitted. Funerals allowed with close family members only. So we're pretty much saying that it's everything that was locked down in March and April, with the exception that schools will remain open. My question, Sophie, is how can you possibly have an effective lockdown if the schools remain open?
Wow, yeah, I've got family members. My own partner works in a school himself, as does my sister. I've got a friend that works in a school. And from what I've gathered within a school, you know, kids are kids. Kids don't adhere to social distancing rules. You know, they bite each other. They spit at each other. It's just what kids do. So the people that then work within the school, they're around another how many other kids. They're then going home and spreading it to whoever they're seeing in their social bubble. So I agree, you know, educational purposes should remain open, but it's still going to spread. If you've got 10 kids in a class that are biting each other and spitting at each other, and there's another 4 teachers in the same school, it's not really going to prevent it, is it?
No, and what my kids have been in isolation over the half-term period because one child tested positive, was completely asymptomatic but tested positive. So the kids were put into isolation, and touch wood, desk is wood, they haven't shown even the hint of a symptom in all that time. So that's essentially what they're saying. Something that's very interesting, which we're going to bring up now. This is from a Daily Mail article in September, and you can take the Daily Mail with a pinch of salt if you want to, but that's fine.
I'm not going to say what I call them, but yeah.
Well, but it's they're reporting that analysis from Sage. So all the papers could have reported on this because it's independent information. But what I found comes from the Daily Mail. Analysis by Sage shows that a significant rise in the number of women aged between 20 and 40 being admitted for serious COVID-19 infection in England, Wales and Scotland since August. So the highest rates are amongst that demographic, women aged between 20 and 40. And you think, what scenario is most likely to happen for women aged between 20 and 40 to mix with people who aren't in their bubble or not from their household? And the only thing I can think of is school runs.
Yeah.
They're most likely to want to be doing the school run twice a day.
Being mothers, yeah, of course.
Twice a day.
Yeah,
and because they go to the school and each school has its own system for controlling social distancing and staggered start times, the parents have still got to wait while one child goes in. They may have to wait another half hour for the next child in another year group to go in, but they're still outside and they're still mingling and chatting and what have you. So through no fault of their own, that's where I think the infection is spreading. Now,
yeah, of course.
How could you, if this is true, which they would probably deny it, but that's my putting 2 and 2 together, we're probably coming up with 14, let alone 4. But because my maths isn't great, but if you're saying the schools are staying open, we would probably need to see some hard evidence that the R number across the country is going down, because that scenario is still going to be happening, isn't it? Those school runs are still going to be taking place because no schools and universities are closing down. So, interesting. I'll try and get the report up again. I don't think you're the only one having internet problems today. So if you don't mind, I don't mind telling you, this report doesn't seem to want to open on me. But it is interesting, isn't it?
It's the same with universities. Not to put students down, but students, they don't self-isolate either. So when there was a report recently saying that it was the younger generation, I think between 18 and 25, it's because it was students. So to keep universities open as well, students are in student accommodations. They're all still mingling together anyway. So these institutions that are staying open are where people are more than likely to not adhere to social distancing rules.
Yeah, and as I said, my maths isn't particularly great, but I do have that story now. Young women between 20 and 40 are bearing the brunt of the UK second wave of COVID-19, NHS hospital data has revealed. So that's an analysis of hospital records showing that there's been a significant rise in the number of females aged 20 to 40 being admitted for serious COVID-19 infections since August, and the schools came back, of course, in September. So I say my maths isn't great. If we do it in round figures, I'm trying to put a balanced view across here that we're going into a lockdown and infection rates are spiraling out of control. The NHS won't be able to cope. The government feel they've had to take this action. But the rate of infection in Birmingham in round figures is 300 per 100,000. So, as I say, my
Yeah.
maths is not great. So, feel free to comment on this on social media when you see the video, thinking, "Who is this
It's like
idiot?
30%.
Who is it?" No, it's not. No, it's not 30%. No, if it was, if it was 30%, yes, we'd worry. I think it's 0.3%. 0.3% of people in
Yeah.
Birmingham.
Yeah, my decimals are off there.
Yeah, 0.3% of people in Birmingham roughly are catching coronavirus. Is that enough to
Well,
say?
my partner tested. Yeah,
Go on.
okay. Yeah, my partner tested positive. He's tested positive. I've not tested positive. My mum's not tested positive. Touch wood. His mother's not tested positive. So my question was, look, he's within my social bubble. How can he test positive, but his parents have tested negative? My parents have tested. How was I around him for so long? I was around him the night before we tested positive, but I'm negative.
I can't answer that. I really can't. But there you go. It makes very little sense at all.
Yeah.
So they reckon this is going to have to take place between the 5th of November and the 2nd of December if we are hoping to see anything resembling a normal Christmas for this year. I think you can pretty much write off that it's not going to be a normal Christmas. I mean, I actually quite like the idea. I spoke about this with Terry Ann on Switch Radio doing this a couple of weeks ago. I actually quite like the idea of a very quiet Christmas this year with just a very close family around. And
yeah, you did say that.
Not the kind of the mad dash around them. I love the fact that the German market's not here this year. Secretly, I'm thrilled about that. But
it's a consumerism holiday, isn't it? As well?
Yeah. So I don't mind that. I'm fortunate enough. One thing we haven't mentioned is that the furlough scheme is going to be extended. I've not fortunately had to fall under furlough. I've been able to work every single day that I've been available to work during the pandemic, and I haven't lost any money because of that. So I'm very fortunate, very grateful. Don't get me wrong. I don't take that for granted. But it will be nice to just have a complete shut off from it and have a quiet one with my partner and my kids and have a good one. But like I said, party animals like yourself, young Miss Priest, how do you feel about that?
One thing I can say is I don't really go out around Christmas, believe it or not. I don't understand the concept of going out on Christmas Eve. Like, I like to be tucked up at home in a glass of red wine in my pyjamas. For me, it's more the build up to Christmas. It's, the going outdoor ice skating. It's the going. I think there was a couple of years ago, I went to like a light museum, and it was just like statues of lights. I like the build up to it. I went to an orchestra last year with my sisters. For me, it's the build up to Christmas. And I think the fact that we now won't be able to go anywhere. The same for Halloween, I can't go to a scare fest. I couldn't go anywhere. So for me, it's the build up. But as long as I can spend the day with my family and still see them and have dinner, I'm still grateful for that.
The government is saying that they're hoping that this lockdown will mean it could be as close to a normal Christmas as possible. One thing, what we would normally do, and I've never seen you on one of these. I've got to be honest with you. In all the years that I've been involved with Switch Radio, by the way, that's coming up on 20. So if anybody wants to plan some kind of celebration or party for me, you can treat it as a surprise. I don't mind. That's coming up on 20 years. But we always have the Switch Radio Christmas night out, the drinks, which is always it's a right laugh. I don't think that's going to happen this year, and I think that's something that we're quite sad about. But they say that if we do this lockdown, there's a chance that we could have something resembling. If we come out of the lockdown and it's okay, then we all go into tier 3. So even if you do go out, then it won't be beyond 10 o'clock. So I think that's where we are. But we will be speaking a bit later on in the show here today with a renowned psychologist, Dr. Meg Arrell, all about how to mentally cope with the bleak midwinter and with the added pressure of coronavirus on us all, how we can cope with that, and some coping tips that we could have, which will be a very, very interesting discussion. I like you, Sophie, I'm all right in the run up to Christmas with the bright lights and the jangly music and the kids being excited and all that. Once we get into January, February, stay away.
Same.
I do not want to know. January, February.
Same.
Definitely not. definitely not. So we got some other stories.
We're going to have to make our own sound now.
Yeah. Well, yeah, like our grandparents and our great-grandparents, get a piano, learn how to play, entertain ourselves around it and all that. But one question, I think we've mentioned this in our chat with our psychologist friend who we're talking with later. I mean, thank whoever is in charge, the Lord, nature, whichever deity somebody wants to pray to, that's completely up to them. But thank heavens for this technology that we've had over the last 8 months for internet and where we'd have been.
Digital communication's a whole new way of life now, isn't it?
Yeah, if coronavirus had hit 30 years ago, I worry.
Imagine.
I would,
the dial-up connections.
Oh, it'd have been that. It'd have been Nintendo Game Boys and a barcode battler. Now, there's a handheld game from the past. It was terrible. It wasn't even entertaining. It was like a cards with barcodes on, and you'd scan them in this device, and then they'd play the game. But we're going off at a tangent, but never mind. Some interesting stories this week, and we'll get to those now. A lot of those have got to do with coronavirus. I don't know how much of these stories that you've seen this week, but there's one about a bar, which of course doesn't matter now because they're going into lockdown, but they've had their license revoked after a customer cut off the top of his thumb. He cut off the top of his thumb. You haven't seen this, right? I'm going to find the story.
No, I didn't see that bit.
It was an unfortunate accident, and so we shouldn't laugh. One of those, it's like a Only Fools and Horses moment. I think he got it trapped in the lid of the bar, and it sort of fell down.
Oh, okay. He didn't actually cut it off himself.
No. So I'm trying to find the story now, but from what I understand with the story is that the bar in question were under suspicion for breaching COVID restrictions, so they didn't want any kind of police involved or any kind of like that in case they'd been found doing some things that they shouldn't have been doing. I'm desperately trying to find this now. So they snuck.
I skimmed it earlier.
Yeah, they snuck the guy out the back of the bar and said, "Take yourself off to hospital and don't involve us in this at all." And it didn't work out. I've
got it in Hockley. The one that was in Hockley.
The one that's in Hockley. Yeah, I say my internet has let me down.
Yeah, I've got it. Yeah.
A Birmingham City Centre club, which told a man not to call 999 after having his thumb sliced off, it's had its licence revoked following breaches of coronavirus rules. So, well done to them. So you try and cover it up best way you can, and you still get found out. Apparently, there was at least one serious violent incident at the premises, police revealed, when the man had the tip of his thumb severed off when a male who works at Nakira slammed the victim's finger in the main. Oh, it's in the main door, not the bar. Okay, between 3 and 4 a.m. on September 24th. Evidence presented by the police stated it is a deep concern, and it reveals much about the approach of the management at Nakira, that they tried to cover up this incident so the authorities would not find out. So, yeah.
During a pandemic as well, it's kind of like that's all you need, isn't it? You kind of breaking restrictions during a pandemic, and then someone ends up needing an ambulance.
Yeah, but then told when he needs an ambulance to just
get out the back door and go and find your own.
Don't tell us, don't involve us, nothing to do with us.
And I'm laughing at the audacity of it. Imagine being in a bar that's that's breaking restrictions. It's like, just get out the back door and find your own ambulance.
Yeah. Another story this week. There's a firm called Hermes who deliver parcels, and
yes,
what's that? What's that noise about? Have you had a bad experience with Hermes?
I've had several bad instances. There was a time a few years ago, I'd ordered some skincare products. It was worth like £35, and I just never seen them. And then I contacted Hermes, and they told me that it'd been signed for. I definitely didn't have it. I'm not going to try and scam them for £35. And I never seen it again. And then another time where they literally left my parcel in my bush, in my garden. They just they must have just propped it on my hedge and just got back in the van.
Well, delivery at its finest. Well, Hermes parcel delivery facility, it had been reported, had been approved for Tyseley, just up the road from where I live. While the facility for handling packages has been approved in Tyseley, the name on the design statement is Hermes Investment Management and not Hermes Couriers. Hermes Couriers have made it clear that they are not associated with the new building at all. So, yeah, even Hermes don't want to be associated with being in Tyseley. I think that's the poor Tyseley.
So who's the new company in Tyseley then?
Hermes Investment Management. So
Which is obviously a financial company.
Financial company, but they won't deliver your cosmetics or any kind of products to you.
I won't be losing any skincare products.
No, you won't. No. More than £400,000 has so far been allocated for Birmingham's 2022 Festival of Britain. It has been revealed. Originally dubbed the Festival of Brexit, the £120 million project was announced in 2018 by then Prime Minister Theresa May and given the go-ahead by Boris Johnson last year. The government says the UK-wide celebration, which will be primarily based in Birmingham, will be designed in collaboration with the devolved administrations to showcase the best of art, culture, heritage, design, and technology sectors. So
will that actually go ahead though?
Well, we've got 2 years, yeah. Best part of 18 months. I think the idea that's going to happen is Birmingham's hosting the Commonwealth Games, albeit in 2022. So everybody's watching us, so they thought they'd stick this Festival of Britain on top of Birmingham as well.
At least they're putting Birmingham in a good light, aren't they? They're giving us a chance.
This is true. A few years ago, I went for a job down south, and is there a stigma involved with being from Birmingham when you're dealing with outsiders? That's the question that was possibly naively going through my mind. We talked about our accent before and stuff like that, and they said, "Why do you want this job? What can you offer?" I can't even remember what it was now. Well, I said, well, as you could probably tell from my accent, I'm from Birmingham. And I said, so far, Birmingham has given the world diabetes from a chocolate factory, obesity from brown sauce on sausage sandwiches, really bad cars slated by people like Jeremy Clarkson on Top Gear, and a rubbish football team like Aston Villa and Birmingham City. I said I wanted to prove that we are worth so much more than that. Didn't get the job, surprisingly, but that was my answer to the question. So is this festival, is this an opportunity for Birmingham to then be at the forefront of...
I hope so. I don't know why put in such a bad light. I mean, okay, our accent, as we've said, it may not be the best of accents, but we're not exactly a bad city, are we?
No, not at all.
There's worse cities out there.
Yeah, and any one of those cities can access this video on YouTube and attribute those words to Sophie Priest and not anybody.
Just don't mention my accent while you say it.
Not anybody else associated with Switch Radio or its management. So there we go. Where have you stood on the whole school meals row?
Wow, I don't see why that we shouldn't, provide kids with school meals that may need it. But I can see both perspectives. Unfortunately, there are some kids that do need it for whatever reasons they need it. They could have parents with complex needs. There could be negligence there, and I don't see why we can't just help kids out. However, there is the other argument that if parents, say for example, are spending, child benefit on getting Botox done or getting surgical enhancements or alcohol and things like that, then the argument is, well, they should budget the money. But I think for me, the bottom line is, if a kid needs help, why not help them? Regardless of their circumstances, it's not their fault. Why not help them? It's not about what their parents do or how their parents lack the ability to prioritise. Unfortunately, these kids need help, so why should we not help them?
I think that's a fair way of putting it. There have been a few charities and groups that have spread up around this. We were due to speak to the creator of a Facebook group across Birmingham called Feed Our Kids, who have been doing tremendous work, putting food packages together, arranging delivery drop-offs, and what have you, and they've been doing some tremendous work, and they were going to put an appeal out. One or two slight issues mean they haven't been able to join us on the show, which is fine. But where would you stand on the whole idea that we hear the politicians say, particularly Marcus Rashford, the footballer, this is a great initiative and we really support this, and well done, Marcus. And then there's an opportunity to actually do something about this. A bill goes through in Parliament and they vote it down.
I think for me, it's sad that I mean, it's an anticlimax, so to speak, because it's sad that, you know, we voted it down, but then it's nice to see that communities come together. But for me, it shouldn't be the community's job to do that. You know, with the amount of money that, I mean, there's been like, what, 13 billion gone into track and trace alone. You know, to feed the kids over half time that need it, it's not a lot of money. I think it's sad to see that it was voted down because, I mean, for me, I read that it was an Anne Vicky Ford. She was an MP that voted against it, yet she submitted £170,000 expenses, some of which included a lot of free meals. So if you can claim expenses for free meals, how can you vote against kids wanting free meals? And then it's for the community to do. It's for people that don't really have much themselves, that are putting money in and, you know, donating food and going out onto the streets and feeding kids. I think as much as it's nice to see the community do, it shouldn't be the community that do that. It should be the people that are supposed to help and protect us.
I think that's absolutely right. And I think, I just think it needs to be highlighted for those who, well, you should feed your kids. Oh, absolutely. No, you make your own money, you feed your kids, blah, 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 blah. People who don't have kids say things like that, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And just because somebody has a free school, I had free school meals as a child. I'm not afraid, I'm not afraid to admit that. Well, in fact, admit that. That's wrong, even saying that. I don't want to admit that. There's nothing wrong with it.
Oh, I love turkey dinosaurs at school.
Turkey dinosaurs? Yeah, Jamie Oliver. Who do you think you are? That was the one thing I ate.
Love them.
The turkey Twizzlers.
Yes.
They were good. But you should look after your kids. You should provide for your own kids. And yeah, okay, that's fine. But you obviously have no idea about the financial constraints that are on people, particularly with things like universal credit. And children don't go in for free school meals to give the parent the opportunity to avoid feeding their children.
Yeah, of course.
Right. No parent sends their child into school to have a free school meal and think, well, that's them off my hands today. No, they don't. No. And just because it's half term doesn't mean, okay, I couldn't feed them. If I could feed them, they'd take sandwiches in.
Yeah.
But now it's half term. That money still isn't there. So where am I getting the sandwiches from? That's what they're not getting. That's what they're not understanding.
And I think, you know, we're looking at the pandemic, some people have lost their jobs. You know, I think people are looking at kids that have free school meals as sort of lower class peasants, which isn't the case. You know, I had free school meals, but my mum and dad worked very hard. Just because I had free school meals, it doesn't mean that I come from a poor family. And I think during a pandemic, people have lost their jobs and people are financially struggling. And as you say, I agree with you. I think a lot of it is it's at women, and I think it's being aimed at single parents as well. A lot of it's being aimed at single parents, single women, because you don't see them having a go at dads that can't provide for the kids. It's always the mum's fault. They're having a go at women and single parents. And
I think,
it's not right at all. What about single parents that have just lost a job, that was working 20 hours a week, that was on 0-hour contract, that now can't work that job? There's a lot of factors to consider which people aren't considering.
I couldn't agree more with that, Sophie. Yeah. One more thing, and I'm going to appeal to your not feminist nature. I'm going to say feminine nature.
Yeah.
Okay. Treading very carefully here. Right. Okay. You're in Solihull.
Yeah.
And you're walking along and you see a poster for a cycle scheme or a cycling lane, and to say you want to get involved in keeping fit cycling. And you see the picture of the cyclist, and he is described as a super fit and a cycling champion, wearing sort of tight lycra and what have you. Would that, treading my words very carefully, would that image inspire you to get involved with this initiative, if you were to get involved in the initiative, or do you think that's actually going to put people off getting involved?
I don't know. Did you not say it was a women's only? Am I getting confused if you're saying that?
No. Okay. The criticism here is that making a super fit bloke the poster boy for cycling in Solihull won't win over many would-be riders. It has been feared. The Lib Dem councillor in Solihull, Councillor Catherine Thomas has warned against relying on just a single peak performer to act as the borough's cycling champion. So,
yeah, why could it not be a male and a female on it? Like,
okay.
and I mean, I worked in Solihull a lot, and again, the demographics there's a lot of elderly people that cycle. For me, a lot of cyclists around the Solihull Shirley area was a lot of elderly women, a lot of them as women. I'm not quite a feminist, but I do believe in equality. It's like going back to the old days of the adverts of fairy washing up liquid. It was always women in the adverts. You'd never see a man washing up in the adverts. It wouldn't necessarily put me off, but I would question, why is there a certain particular individual on there? Why not have an elderly woman? Why not have a younger woman? Why not have both? Why does it have to be an athletic, fit man to show that only men can be this fit and sort of this active?
Well, a public consultation on the draft for this poster is set to begin a week on Monday and run until December 21st. Newsflash, we're going to be locked down for weeks. Do you think you're going to not be a bit bored talking about a cycling poster for that long?
Oh, that's the problem. Look, it's not that much of an issue, is it? You can see the issue behind it, but yeah, we're going into a lockdown and we're in the middle of a pandemic.
Mm-hmm. So, but you wouldn't, okay, then let's nip this in the bud. So if you saw that hypothetical poster, you wouldn't go, oh, he looks amazing, I'm getting involved in that. Or you'd go, there should be at least two people there. There should be different body sizes, types. What would you think?
I do agree that there should be different body sizes and types on there, but I don't think I'd look at it and it deter me. I don't think I'd look and think, I'm not going to get involved. But I wouldn't, as you say, I wouldn't automatically look and think, oh, I'm going to get involved because I'm a female. And if I was to take inspiration from anybody, it would more than likely be a female. So if I seen a fit female on there that was athletic, I'd be like, oh my God, I can do that too. But if it was a male, I'd kind of think I wouldn't really be inspired by it, but I wouldn't necessarily be deterred by it either.
Very good and very diplomatic answer, Sophie Priest. There we go. Right, we've reached the end of our little chat. It's been fun, and I think we got over our little internet issues at the start.
My internet, Talk.
Yes. Who are you with?
Talk.
Oh, okay. Other ones are available for those watching now. For the consumer generation, I'm with Talk too. Right. Yeah. How we ever got the call off the ground, who knows? So, Switch Radio, the Garage Bangers are continuing?
Yes, they're on. You can catch them tonight between 1 and 2. Ooh. And you can also hear me on Monday 2 till 5 as well.
Monday 2 till 5. Excellent stuff. Sophie Priest, thank you very much. It's been a lot of fun.
Thank you very much for having me again.
For more great videos from the week, make sure you subscribe to our channel. It's down here somewhere. And don't forget, you can catch us on the radio every Sunday between 12 and 2 on FM across Birmingham, 107.5, on mobile, on DAB and online. We're made for Birmingham. This is Switch Radio.